Welcome back, guys, to the show. Thank you for tuning in. Whoever is watching this live from around the world, thank you so much for tuning in. Today's guest we have again Professor Afualo. We are so grateful to have him on. I got him on a line right now, so we'll cross over into starting this interview. Thank you, Dr. Professor Afualo, for your time. Can you hear me, Professor?
Yes, I can hear you. We are
Oh,
very loud and clear.
thank you so much,
Yeah.
Professor. That's way better than last week's. But um,
Okay.
um, there's a lot there's a lot of things to talk about, and I'll keep it short for your time. But thank you so much for your time, Professor. We
Okay.
greatly appreciate your experience and your input of making the people outside of Samoa understand the stuff that is happening in Samoa. I want to first cross over to the. I wanted to talk about the media in Samoa. Now I know the media. I'm not trying to attack the media. We had some major issues, major events take place. Like on Monday, we had the case of the Prime Minister being. A verdict was yet to be announced on his court case. Um, uh, with the media, is it the people in Samoa? We want to know about these types of what's happening in Samoa. So, can you give us a little update on the case of what's happened in the case of Laoli and the please, Afualo, Professor?
Yeah, okay. But first of all, before we um, continue with our program, I'd like to welcome our viewers, all from all parts of the globe, our senior citizens, even we have the adolescents and the younger generation, particularly for those who cannot understand Samoan language or speak Samoan language, because there's a large majority of the diaspora, and even in Samoa, you know, would understand issues better if it's given in English. So on that note, yes, you're welcome. You're welcome to our the second edition of our English version, of what's happening in Samoa. Now, coming back to your question, Mike, the issue with the postponement of the case, that is something that has to do solely with the jurisdiction of the judge.
Okay.
Yeah, and and by law, she has to be satisfied with the reasons, and the reasons have to be very valid legally, for her to postpone the decision. So whatever comes out, we have to take on that. So that's where we are at the moment, and it's on 20th of this month.
Yep.
Now, for the media's role, I, you know that for any uh, functioning democracy, it has to be media is the fourth estate. Um, but what we are seeing around the world, and and by any standards, the media should be unbiased. They should be independent in the way they present, and also report back to the public of what happened and what has been happening and what is happening and what will be happening as well. So that is where the media and the role of the media is very, very important in making sure that democracy exists and democracy functions at its very best. I mean, when we look at the history, most of countries that have been ruled or governed by authoritative um, governments, whether it's military or a dictator or a religious government, you know, all of those, um, they would they would have a huge and heavy hand on controlling the media. Unlike democracy like Samoa and New Zealand, Australia, and the U.S. and most of the Commonwealth, I would say, um, the media is very, very important. So, in coming back to answer your question directly, I don't really know whether the media was performing um, a due diligence responsibility in reporting the issue. But all we know that once the decision came down from the judiciary, then we have to abide with it, you know. So it's just a matter of setting it or deferring it for a later date, and we can hope and only hope that that would be the final one. That would be the final verdict for this very, very historical event, you know,
Very.
that has, that has created a lot of enthusiasm, some good, some bad, you know, but
Yeah.
but that's politics,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's my quick response,
Just, with that, and I asked that with the media because there's some big issues that are happening that are coming out of Samoa, but it seems that it's not really catered to the diaspora or the
Yeah,
Samoans outside. You get the news from these media outlets or these podcasts or these shows, but they are very biased, in my view, to the government, and at the moment, in my opinion. But because I'm used to the media here in Australia and New Zealand, and how they report. And this coverage, if this was our Prime Minister, it would be cameras everywhere, all wanting to get
that's right.
understanding of what's happening. And so I'm just wanted to touch on if this is a culture thing, or media, could the media be scared? I know some observer is not allowed to talk to the Prime Minister, and that raises big concerns
Yeah,
for a democracy. But another thing as well, there's another case that's got an unfortunate professor had been found in her cell in Tanmalala. And even that itself, it's a big case. And, God rest
yeah,
her soul. But just answers of just the people that were there at the court, that were there inside the prison cell taking care of her. A quick comment is something that I would just you will usually ask, you usually get from a media, the people that were responsible for her at that time. What was the, do
yeah,
you understand what I'm saying, Professor? That's what I'm
yes,
trying to hit
yeah.
on?
Now, the fact is, the reality,
Yeah.
on ground, um, like any other, democracy. Let's look at New Zealand and Australia and UK and even United States. Whatever government that comes into power, there are certain media, that are, leaning towards, or that means they are pro, like whatever government,
Yeah.
and for other medias who are supporting, the opposition, and that's how the game, plays. So it's the same thing happening here in Samoa. We see that the media, which is, the government, like we have the Savali and others. So whatever is being dispensed through the government protocol has to be funneled through those government outlets.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, that should not, um, you know, uh, that shouldn't be a barrier for the independent and even, other medias, that are leaning towards the opposition.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, because the public, is being served through that. and public needs to be given the proper information. So whatever information that comes out of the government, that's government's business, you know. And there are media outlets that support that, as long as they are not biased with the way they present their news. You know, they should present whatever the government says, and then that's it. You know, that's fair enough because we are all under that government. You know, of the day, for example, like the fast. So whether we like it or not, you know, we have to be ensured that what we receive is the truth. And that is where that burden of proof falls upon the media and their responsibility. And when you try to add on your own intuition, you know, or your own, you know, you try to manipulate, you know, what the government says, and that is where, you know, because the media has to report exactly, you know, what happened, and if you want to make any critiques of that, then that is where they're independent, you know, because you're putting forth your opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know, because that is democracy.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the case of the Observer, yeah, well, the Prime Minister has made his decision, and you know we cannot, you know, change his mind. But as you know, for me, you know, I would advise, you know, he needs to be, you know, on that, you know, because he's on the higher platform of ensuring that there is media. If Observer or any other media has crossed the red line, there is always a law.
Yes.
There is always a law.
Yeah.
But when you take the law into your own hands and ban, you know, I think that's not.
Yeah.
That's undemocratic, you know.
Yes.
But there are many ways to skin the cat, you know, as that famous saying, you know.
Yeah.
With this, we're living in the information age, technology.
That's right.
You cannot. There is no way, you know, that you can hide the truth, you know. Even if you meet inside a very secure technology has a mysterious way of making sure that the public knows, you know.
Yeah.
Look at what is happening in Iran, you know. The Islamic government has, you know, turned off all Facebook, you know, YouTube, and you know, all the internet, you know. They just, but we still see, you know, a lot of other ways, you know, where the truth, you know, is happening. So it's just like us here in Samoa. I mean, for me, you ask Mike, if I was the prime minister, I would not stop, you know, because you can only say bring it on, you know, because this is where, you know, I mean, you look at Donald Trump. I use that even the prime minister, you know, Albanese, and even the prime minister of New Zealand, you know, when they are asked head on, you know that the questions are very provocative, you know, and also, you know, trying to lure, you know, the leaders into the positions where they are. You know, they just tell them, if you don't like it, just tell them, please, you know, this is not the best time to, and that's it. But when you try to use the authority of the office to exclude someone, you know, which has played a crucial role, that's not good. Because what we are now seeing, you know, with the ban on some observer, you know, unfortunately, that is the prime minister's prerogative. But I hope that in the future he will invite, you know, the observer on the table, you know, and you know, this is where you tell, you know, yourself, you know, you express yourself to the media and the public, and they will judge that. But now we are seeing that even with small, I would say small in the sense, the news that you cannot find anywhere, we're now seeing popping up everywhere, you know, from, you know, observer sources, you know. So, and it keeps spreading. But my point is, if you disagree with them, or if they, you know, break the law, you know, so to speak, there is the court.
Consequences, yes, right. That's
Yes,
right.
that you can sue them,
Yeah.
you know, but you know, banning them from.
It's not a good look.
So
You
I
know,
feel for them, but it's his decision. So
yes.
we can't.
And just to back on what you're saying, it's important to have an opposition. I think as our Samoan
Yeah,
people forget about that. If we don't have an opposition, it's whatever the prime minister. If he takes the stance, it's whatever he says goes. And I think that's where
that's
people in
true.
Samoa, just to educate them, to say, guys, if just say we don't say nothing on the other side, or the opposition don't say nothing. I mean, if we go 2 years of doing this, this could go down another way that we can't come back from. And I think that's where people need to understand. It's good to have opposition to kind of help us and keep the government
Yeah,
accountable. But just to add on to that, Professor, the because there's articles here as well I've been seeing on some Observer. There's maintenance issues inside. There's maintenance conditions in some of these government buildings are not up to standard. There's been a report of the roof in the courthouse nearly hit someone. And even in hospitals, there's some reports on the conditions are not as good, not up to par, if you want to say. And I just wanted to, I was thinking, so I'm not, maybe I missed the press conference, or maybe it's not widely out there, but would you not think that the minister of that sector would take a press conference to explain these types of issues? I'm not sure. Am I missing something, Professor, or is that not allowed?
you know, usually um, the gateway into understanding those is the minister.
Yes.
And for if there are very sensitive issues, then the PM, the buck stops with the PM. But it appears that most of those critical issues that where the public are, very concerning about, are now, answered by, by the prime minister. But the core functions of ministers, they are the ones who are responsible to the ministries, and then they have to provide the explanations. There are also those ministries also have the CEOs, and they are the ones that are there to make sure that the management, the good governance, and also they provide the very best advice to the minister. So if the minister feels that he or she does not have, the thorough understanding of what the issue is about, then refer it to the CEO, or the CEO has to explain, in detail, and then the minister will deal with that. That's the protocol. But what we're seeing now, it seems that all of the issues are now referring to the prime minister. I remember during the time when Dr. Tudepa
Yep.
was the prime minister. He was also the one, where the buck stops.
Yep.
So all of the issues refer to him.
Okay.
Hardly you see a minister answers to that. And
Okay.
that is, so it's not new, and I
Yep.
can see that Laudi is also, uh, but make sure that you know what you are,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So when it comes to the prime minister, like anyone, or the president, you should have a good understanding, of what is happening. And if you don't, then the next person would be your minister. And if your minister doesn't even have that a capacity, then the CEO will come along. So you see, that's why the stages, and it's very important that we make sure that the flow of information from the lower level of management up to the top level to the prime minister is flowing.
Yep.
And then you report it as it is, but don't twist
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
like what we're saying, because once those um, issues come to the fore, then that is where the media work. I mean, that is where the media, they are the ones. Um, they are supposedly the opposition. Also, they can also support the government. And that's why they are the fourth estate, which is very, very important. So for countries that don't have opposition, the media becomes the opposition. And they are liable to the public. They report what is happening to the public. I remember when Tatua first started, and that was when I got into Parliament. We had there's about 13 of us, and then we ended up with 12, and we formed. That was probably the first time a strong opposition, you know, uh, party was formed. But we did come into that understanding because we know that you're not there to go against the government. No, no, because the government of the day is the government, like the fast. But you play your role as an opposition to make sure that they are on the right track. You know that policies that they give out are meant for everybody, not just for the supporters, of one party. And that's one of the crucial roles of being the media. And I think the media should be very um, excited on that, and we should pat them on the back, because without them, because knowledge is very, very powerful,
Yes.
and we have to make sure that all of that understanding is there. Now, coming back to the maintenance, as one of the core issues that you brought forward in this question, um, the completion of the National Hospital at Mototua, this was solely funded by Chinese. It was um, I think it was a loan. Part of it was also a grant, but it's that very low concession. And and like any other, a lot of other big projects that were completed under the HRBP, in the duration of that, there has to be a continuous, an annual maintenance of the infrastructure. That is a challenge, because whatever CEO that comes along, even with the new minister, they just come, at that. Because I know some of the offices that were allocated for us, the opposition, at Mulu. And we had our own offices, and as a result, we go there, we look at it, we look at the maintenance, even the, those infrastructure built for the Faipule. The maintenance was very poor. And the question comes back to why does this happen? Then you have to look at the budget. You have to look at the budget, because it has to come from the budget, and the minister and the CEOs will make sure that that portion that accrues to the maintenance, has to go to the maintenance. But I don't think that's a situation. So for me, because even in our um, institution, the National University of Samoa, we also have a maintenance issue. But this is an issue that is discussed, it's discussed within the senior management, And so as a result, we see, every day, the maintenance, those who are looking after the maintenance will have to make sure that they perform. So, and I shall hope, since I knew this is it's not under PSC, like the ministry, all the ministries, and
Yeah.
therefore, they have that. But the maintenance is an entity within the infrastructural development that has to be prioritized, you know, because millions of dollars have been poured into those infrastructures. And we know the lifespan of most of those, after 20, 30 years, then you're looking at it's either, demolish the whole thing now, or refurbish them to, the prior conditions. So to answer your question, the management, the maintenance, and make sure that the funding that was allocated through the budget, has to go into that. But that is a mystery.
Man, and then it's scary. It's a mystery, Professor. I love what you said. I think for you, I think that's where the transparency for us, in media, we have to stand in the middle. And I love how you mentioned that happened in the time of when Tulepa as well. There was maintenance issues. That's not something to shy away from, And and when you mentioned as well earlier, you said that the Prime Minister Tulepa had the portfolios in front of him as well. And I think that's very honest that we need to say that. We have to say, so it helps me understand that, okay, what Lauli's saying is like it happened in Tulepa's time. So I understand now to say, okay, it happened in his time, but you did say, it comes with a lot of responsibility. But then, so it gives us a good context for us, diaspora, to understand, all right, okay, Lauli, we get where you're coming from, so we should give you some more time to kind of do your thing. Just my take on this, the diaspora, because yes, in Samoan politics, I didn't know much about the politics before 2021, and I felt that the Laoli had really done a good job in campaigning and bringing the diaspora in and involving the diaspora. So that involving the diaspora came with a lot of lights and cameras and action, right? As we could see through the campaigning. And I think from that perspective, it really, to me, in my perspective, or my opinion, is he opened the door for the diaspora to come in. But now the door seems to be shut when the diaspora continues to ask for transparency the way that the diaspora does things. And this is why I kind of have a stand here and say, you're the one who opened the door, which is great. We all welcomed because we loved the energy that Laoli was, the vision that he had, and he was really inviting the diaspora to gather around. But it seems like now he's in power, the door's shut, and some observers shut out, and us diaspora are trying to figure out what's happening, and then we really are dependent on media that seems to be biased towards the government. It's a normal thing to have media's for the government, but I'm just saying, but we need another avenue, outlet for us to kind of understand. So this, I guess this can go to the next question, because us English-speaking Samoans, there's been remarks about the Prime Minister mentioning about English being a second language of Samoa. So can you comment on this subject of him talking about English not really important? I don't have what he said, but he mentioned something that the Samoa is the first language of Samoans. Is this something to comment on, please, Professor?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting question. English, to be honest, it's the official language. It's the official language. The national language is Samoan. But the business, all our business undertakings are done through English, and we are also part of the Commonwealth. If you're looking at, look at the forum, the Pacific Forum Islands, that includes Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, and Vanuatu, and others, PNG. They have their own languages, their own mother tongue. But English language is the language of, business dealings and so on. So it is very important. And one of the testament to what I'm saying, in order for you to pass to come into the foundation program at NUS, you have to pass three subjects, any three, with English, so that means four subjects. And out of the four of your choice, English is a must. You must pass English. You see?
That's very,
so,
yeah.
so right from kindergarten, and then primary, and then we have intermediate, and then of course high school up to university. English is at the heart of it. All the business settings. So for the PM to say that, you know, and I hope we understand what he's talking about. So when you reach the very height, at the top height of your whatever endeavor, whether it's a business, when you become an entrepreneur, or you become a politician, or you become an academic, whatever, or even Matai, English, is there, and unlike what is happening with Lee and Faikule, the language where businesses are conducted, it's traditional Samoan, and it's beautiful. Our language is so rich, and coupled with English, if you are good in English, I give one example of Tuya Tua Tuputam Sese. He is not only a very, very good Samoan orator when he speaks, and a lot of sayings that he coined, are become a part of the everyday language, from Tuyatua, and when he speaks English, when he writes English, it's beautiful. I tell you, I tell you that. So you have no question, because wherever Tamainga, has been invited to be a guest speaker. I had been there for quite some time, as an academic, I love listening to his English repertoire, Now, the same thing with Tudepa, Dr. Tudepa, I admire the way he writes. I tell you this, I tell you this, when he writes through the letter to the editor, he writes better than some of the academics. I mean, with all due respect to my academic, colleagues, but I look at it and say, oh my gosh, this is amazing, And then when it comes to Samoa, you hardly hear Dr. Tulepa mix, his delivery, like in Samoan, and then you see, in between an English, word, that pops like what has been happening, and that is, and that's why it's important that we understand, for example, like myself, even our program that has been on for under the motto of Inga, if you listen to it, I hardly speak in English, except when it is necessary, But it may be necessary, but not sufficient, Let me remind, it may be necessary at some stages of your narrative, but it's not sufficient, So to come back, if you, as a Samoan, holding a very high position, whether it's a prime minister, deputy, or even opposition leader or minister, or even CEO, whatever, you make sure that, we are bilingual. We are bilingual. You must be well versed in both the mother tongue, which is the national, and then the official language, which is English. And I hear some of the critics from some of the diaspora, and they tend to be, trying to paint a very, very false narrative about not being able to communicate properly in English, in the defense of the PM. I said, no, this is not true, And they say that, English is not our language. Now, of course, it's not, but it is an official language, So you have a responsibility to, to the people. And when you uphold those senior positions, you make sure. But if if you feel that that you're not comfortable, then don't use that
Yeah. Yes.
that kind of because you'll end up just like using the pidgin, that pidgin language. Papua New Guinea has many, you're looking at hundreds of dialects, but they have been able to develop a pidgin language, which is now, national, and then they still have the English as an official language. So that's my take on those, some of the diaspora who tend to be defending. And not only that, when you look at countries like China, Xi Jinping, President Xi Jinping, he speaks in his language, the mother tongue, and then there are translators because English is not the national language, and it's not even French, and most of those countries. But when you look at the whole of the English Commonwealth, because it constitutes a huge population. You're looking at millions, billions. I think it's about 1/3, of the world population. And so therefore, English is very, very important. And to be in that position, if I feel that I'm insufficient, of using the language in English, I don't use it. Well, we understand, but your CEOs and other, expertise will help you with that, because it will only bring laughter, and mockery, of the narrative, which is we have to respect our leaders.
Yes.
That's, I mean, for me too. When I hear that, when I look at the critiques of our people, and I feel for the Prime Minister, I feel, and that's why I look at the old man, Dr. Tudepa, he makes sure, when it's the right time to speak in English, you speak in
I'm just touching on this subject. I saw a video that was going around and it was when Tulepa was in government and Prime Minister at the time, and I was trying to make reference of what was happening, but it sounded like Lauli was talking about the something with the finances that the HRPP must have made reference to say the numbers don't add up. And Lauli had said to the Prime Minister, "You don't know business. You have no understanding, no experience in business." And Tulepa had turned around and said, "I have experience in the business of running a government." And I'm not sure of my translation because, this is where I have to work on my Samoan understanding. But in saying that, I wanted to ask the question, is there a difference? Because Laoli does have a experience with business. And we have to hand it to him. That's the truth. And it's good. It's good to have business knowledge, someone as a leader who has business experience. But is there a difference when you're running a country in running a business to running a country, Professor? Is there a big difference, or is this something that, because just off that video and we're talking about the importance of English, but can you comment on this, Professor?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. Looking at the plethora of leadership in the world, almost, I would say probably all, if not, of those leaders have business backgrounds before coming into the political arena. So it's very important that you have some sort of business management understanding before you get into, because running the government is business. It's business. But you're now dealing with the business, at the highest level. Because when you run a small business or whatever business, you're dealing with a variety of people, technology and everything. But when we look at business models, because a lot of business models come and go, they are used by the leaders as a foundation of their decision making. You know, so Tulepa is right. You know, he has been at the helm of government leadership for quite some time, and he knows the business inside out. Now, looking into Lauli, Lauli has been in parliament for some time too, but he is also a businessman, you know, business person in the sense. And and I know there are regulations in parliament, you know, that once you come into parliament, if you are affiliated or if you own any business, you have to, remove your, resign from all of those business entities. You know, you can have it under your family or whoever, you know, but for you, no, you're not allowed that. That's under the parliamentary, and then management, business management. Politics is a little bit different, you know. It's a little bit different, and this is where we look into the integrity. You know, integrity. When you run a business, first and foremost, you are out there to maximize profit. That's the difference, you know. That's the difference between running a government and running a business. You have to make sure that by the end of this financial year, there has to be a surplus, you know. So you are maximizing profit. So all of the business models that you undertake, at the end of the day, there has to be a return, you know. And at any cost, you can fire, hire, whatever, you know. Government is a little bit different, you know. It's different, you know. There are two school of thinking that is now coming back, you know. One is capitalism, which is an economic, you know, it's a business model, it's a financial model. And also, and the other one, which is socialism, it's also an economic model, you know. That's where communism, you know, was born. You know, it was born out of socialism. And then we have mixed, you know, the mixture of, free market and also socialism. Now, having said that, we're delving into economics, you know.
Yes.
Because every government has to stand on economic principles, you know. And then, of course, you know, we have the social, entities that come along, you know. There is a resurgence of a socialism that is happening in the world now, you know, and that's an issue that is faced with, United States is faced with. You look at Bamtandi, you know, the new mayor of New York. You know, he is a true socialist, communist, you know, but, you know, this is totally against capitalism, you know, and even in Europe and other places as well, you know, but even in South America. But quite a few countries now are coming back to capitalism. The difference between the two, with capitalism, the whole economic underpinning revolves around free market. You know, the model, you know, of free enterprise. That is where, you know, the law of supply and demand will come in. I often hear the old man, Dr. Tulepa, talks about, you know, supply and demand, and I think sometimes I also heard that he was also, you know, trying to relate to other MPs, you know, how it functions, you know. But that's the heart of capitalism, you know. It's based on, you know, the law of supply and demand. You know? And when there is demand, you know, we expect that the price will go up, and the other way around, you know, supply, and having that supply and demand, the government does not interfere. You know, people need to, the diaspora need to understand. The government does not interfere with the determinism, you know, the free market, you know, the price of the goods and services. It is determined by the law of supply and demand. You know, that's the heart. That's at the heart of you know, the argument, capitalism. So governments who are run through capitalism, all they do is to develop policies that ensure that this free market thrives, you know. And if there is any disparity between the prices of goods and services where the market fails to deliver, that is where the government will come in through government intervention policies. You know, they will only set their policies, and often, our government is now going back to price control board. Under Dr. Tulepa's leadership, that was phased out. That was phased based on the advice from World Bank, which it was long overdue. And then you leave the market prices to the forces of supply and demand. But I hear the argument now with reinstating that, saying that this will help lower the cost of inflation. I tell you what, it will only make it worse. It will only make it worse. Because one thing is trying to make sure that the price is there, but you don't know for sure whether this is the right price that the market is expecting you to buy it, and the consumers, and suppliers are supposed to supply it. So when we leave that to the supply and demand, they decide for itself, and eventually either the price will go up or come down without government regulations. And once you put in place a price control board, you're now setting what we call the price floor and the price ceiling. So price floor, is the price that you set above. If you look at your basic economics, there are two the curves. The demand, that cuts the first and fourth quadrant, and then you have the supply, second and where those two curves meet. That is what we call the price equilibrium. That is determined by the market. No government intervention. So you're,
Professor. So you're because I think I missed the part where you're saying that. So can you give us an understanding of where Samoa is positioned at the moment? You're saying that there is a board that kind of makes sure that doesn't.
Yeah.
So that's what. So I think you mentioned Tulepa took that out. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did I hear that right? So
yes.
Okay. So now we have that board back on, determining the prices. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. So it's this. It's against economic rationale. Because you're now controlling. But under Dr. Tulepa's leadership, that price control system was only catered for certain commodities.
Yep.
Like rice, sugar.
Common food.
Goods for the common consumption.
Yep.
And fair enough. But the rest of the consumer products are left entirely to the forces of supply and demand. For example, like shoes, clothes, and all of those.
Yeah.
There's no, price floor and price ceiling on those. Only for the goods, the commodities that are required for daily, consumption.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because hearing him saying that, it seems that the power is now for every commodity, which is it's unreal. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
So that means we are going directly back to communism, to socialism, because the difference between capitalism, free market, and socialism, the government controls everything. Whatever amounts, this is what they say, and this is what you get. Even the salaries, there's a scale, but even if you work so hard, and your other colleague, you end up, and that's why a lot of educated minds left Russia, left the Soviet Union, and they defected to the West, because they know that in the West, Europe, Western Europe, even in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and us, in the Pacific, we operate on that, And according to the law of supply and demand, the harder you work, the more you earn.
Yeah, you earn. That's right.
That is the fundamental. If you work overtime, you're gonna get paid.
Extra, yeah.
Under socialism, even if you work so hard, you only get so much. You're like the others, and that's not fair. Life is not like that. And then you end up with people being dissatisfied, and then you look at, and that is what Christ taught us. That is one of the fundamental teachings of Christ. Give credit where it is due.
Yes.
Give credit. And that underlies the, the law of supply and demand, because government, you don't have to set that, all the consumers and the producers, they have to produce goods and services which the consumers want, and the consumers will come. And if there is, if the market is not delivering, is distorted, and that is where the government will come in with policies to make sure, that is a fair, a delivery of the goods and services, but not interfering. Now, what we are now, if it is true, the way I hear, um, leveling, applying this price control board regime across the goods and services, we're going to be bankrupt.
Yeah.
There's no way out that you can control all of. You cannot control all of what we want, because under communism, they say this is what you're going to eat, this is it, or whatever. But for us, under the free market, the market allows you to choose. Because the way we look at things and the way we aspire for things, it's different. We have different priorities, so we have to choose, and then therefore the market will deliver that to you. Yep. You see, without the government, and that's why you see an advancement in technology. In technology, because under the socialist and it didn't move anywhere. And interestingly, here in China, because after the collapse of Soviet Union, 70 years of strict socialism, it was dead. It wasn't moving anywhere, so they had to come back and adopt capitalism, where the free market determines it. And so China learned from the experience of Soviet Union, and therefore they adopt capitalism. And you know what they say? It's socialism with Chinese characteristics. They don't want to admit that socialism and communism failed. But they're saying that it's socialism with capitalism characteristics. With this guy's, you can fool us, but that's the reality. Under the free market, the consumers, will have to choose, and many products, you have to choose, and the market will decide that. So if there is a demand, where there is supply, that's where I you can look this up, where the two curves meet, and that is the equilibrium price and quantity where the market revolves. But under the communist and socialism, the government sets the price above that and below.
Yeah, that's
and
and
so.
I hear references where, people talking about back in the day when they used to have eat chicken frames, and make jokes about it. But I hope it doesn't get to that standard in Samoa again. But just touching on chicken frames and adding it with the economics conversation that we're having here. I seen an article. This is where it gets very, this is where what you're saying, you start to see the dangers of it. If there was a report here about the chicken prices, the chicken legs pricing had been different. Now, when I read this report, I was thinking, because I'm not an economics person, but I'm slowly learning right now, and I'm sure a lot of other people are learning, but I read the article and I was thinking, so what's the dangers of this article? So it was saying something about 53 cents per pound is how much usually it is for chicken to come in. And so, if you get 53 cents per pound for a company, that's the rate of the US government, or the US standard. So in Samoa, because we are a small country, the rate goes a little bit higher. But the story said some of these businesses in Samoa are given rates when they're recording it. Not all. Some selected businesses are being reported given the prices of 30 cents a pound. And so that price fix, does this make sense of what we're talking about here, Professor?
Well, yeah, I also read the article. I think it was probably 51, 52, I think 53 cents.
Yep.
That was what we call the cost, CIF, cost and freight, insurance freight.
Yep.
When you calculate the tariff, or even the excise taxes, you use that. You use the cost
Yep.
that was that that
That tariff,
made it
yep.
landed here,
Yep.
and then you add on your own percentage of profit margin. Now, I look at it and I said, my goodness, here we go again. Um, it's interesting because a lot of even those who are dealing with this, they don't understand, and they are now, and that gives the leverage to government to enforce the reintroduction of price control board, because when you as an importer, there is a freedom for you to import, whatever cost. And under what we call the GST, because the largest revenue earner is the goods and services tax. And the consumers pay for it, goods and services tax. This is, you are the last person to buy that, to consume that good, so you also pay. So under the taxation system, whenever it comes, then the business, the suppliers, they pay, they pay up for all of that, and then that will be recompensated back to what they sell. They sell. So for me, looking into it and saying, my gosh, now this is if they say it's true. If they say it's true that that there were differences in the CI, CIF, this is cost insurance free, the price, then so be it, because you cannot expect all importers to have the same price. No, you cannot. But the hidden dilemma behind it is that because government will earn more revenue from it, you're getting my point.
Yeah.
Because this is GST, it's goods and services tax.
Yep.
So the more that you import these goods with whatever price, the government will earn more from GST, and that is good, And then the suppliers will have to levy that on their selling prices.
Yep.
And then the story goes on because at the end of the day, the business community too will have to pay their income taxes as well.
That's right.
And your income tax depends on how much that you sell. So if you try to to stop the business cycle at some stage, you're interfering with something that you don't understand with.
Yeah.
So the question that you raise is really good. And the differences in I think the other price was about 30 cents. Between 30 and 50. And they also say that some of those costs were not exposed. Were not known. But hey, these are the costs. This is the business.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't know. One of the push by the last government, and it started from Tudeba, was to introduce a new paying system. Once you sell a good, particularly physical goods, sometimes services, then you are linked directly to the customs, to the revenue, and then they will know that this is it, So quite a few businesses didn't like it, because, because you are now exposing how much you're getting from it. No, but the government is only interested about the government share through the GST, and how much you get it.
Yep.
But you cannot, say. So I don't know whether that continued, but it was a good system, And I hope the government, this government, continues to look into that and look at ways to improve the system. It will not only help the suppliers, but it will also enhance the capability of the revenue and the customs department to collect the revenue for the budget.
That's right.
And now comes the new policy now of price control. If you levy all the price controls, whether it's it's price floor or price ceiling, you're not going to get what you are expected to collect from the revenues. You're not going to get it. So
It's a it's a big it's good we talk about these things because this is what people it's like a missing part for a lot of Samoans. When they don't have something that's functioning in their car or something like that, well the car's got to break down. And I feel like we're kind of trying to fill this missing part so people can understand the importance of economics and the experience behind this. It's got nothing to do whether we are supporting the blue or the red. We respect the government and we respect Laoli for he is the Prime Minister of Samoa.
Yeah.
But we just stand on, as the opposition, I'm not saying I'm the opposition, but I stand with the opposition's thoughts and his way of thinking. But that doesn't mean that I don't favour with the Prime Minister, and I'm sure that's the same with you, Professor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this, we can talk economics. I'm very interested and I'm learning as we talk. But I wanted to move to slightly the different questions that I had. They have, so talking about they have the seabed. I just want to keep the underground mining. It's a big topic happening at the moment. And talking about capitalism and, is this a good thing, Professor? Because I don't think it's a for me, I see it like it's not almost like with Saudi Arabia and all these countries, they have struck gold with having oil in their land. But I feel like we're surrounded by water in Samoa. This is like our oil. But, from your perspective, because I know there's companies that are looking to work with the government to kind of make some kind of deal. I heard that the US president had made a deal or is looking to make deals with America Samoa, which is not far from Samoa. But I've looked into it a little bit more, and these rocks that are found underneath the ground in the sea are very precious, and it's worthy to a lot of these big businesses. But a lot of locals on Samoa obviously wouldn't know much about these rocks. But what I've looked at, there's a whole ecosystem down the bottom of the sea near our ocean, and I'm a person that loves Samoa. I think that's why I like Laoli. Some of Laoli's stuff about trying to go back and trying to invest into our Samoa and have Samoans come back to their roots of the ocean. Sadly, we don't see Samoans in the ocean much these days. But coming back to what I'm saying, the ocean has got these rocks underneath, which is kind of gold to some of these big companies, billion-dollar companies. And they want to come and make deals with Samoa. What's your opinion on this? Is this a good thing for Samoa? What's your stance on it, Professor, please?
Mike, this is one of the issues that I teach in environmental economics. I teach final year Bachelor of Commerce Economics.
Yep.
And I explain everything, and one of the fundamental issues in environmental economics, every development that you undergo, you are actually destroying the environment. Whether we like it or not, of course, we look at the cost benefit, we look at what we earn from it. For example, we have a lot of virgin forests, that have been untouched here in Samoa. And to harness that precious natural resource, the timber, particularly the indigenous wood that we have, because it has a very high international market value.
Yeah.
We have to destroy the system. You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree with that.
For many, many years, you're looking at hundreds of years, for this Samoan, hardwood to grow.
Yeah.
We just want that, and then you have to cut it down and destroy everything. And that happened when like the potlatch, one of the biggest development in Hawaii. I'm talking about 40 years ago. And I think Dr. Tsulepa is aware of this more than that. If you go to that part of the island of Hawaii, it's now, somewhere like 20, 30 years of researches, the growth back. But looking around, There was a reforestation program that went, and what was being replaced, the indigenous forests that we have, like, this, uh, Lao Samo are very expensive for the hardwood, very expensive for furnitures, and have been replaced by exogenous, what we mean by exogenous species, commodities. These are, uh, species that were brought from outside of Samoa, to replace it. And a lot of, that Australian native,
Yep.
the eucalyptus,
Yep, the eucalyptus.
eucalyptus. You'll find that there's a lot of eucalyptus,
Oh,
and even the mahogany and others,
yeah.
So they were planted to, just to make sure that there was growth,
Yep.
to cater for the ecosystem that has been destroyed. So the original ecosystem, it's virtually gone, So when you try to replace it with new species, it comes with a lot of cost too, when you bring in new species. Now, having said that, it's the same principle with mining our seabed.
Yes.
Same principle. My only concern about as an environmentalist, an academic on those issues, do they have a better, I would say, plan to replenish the health of those areas that would be mined, because they are looking for rare earth, that's the
Oxygen,
the commodity that they're looking at, and rare earth, is crucial in like all the laptops, the IT and others, a lot of utensils, and China at the moment is controlling about 80 to 90%. That's huge, So United States is now looking, around the world, for places that they can harness that, not just the United States, but other. So we are situated in the largest ocean, in the world.
Yeah.
So when you mine those, you are destroying the environment.
That's right.
The ecosystem, the ecosystem that was there to make sure, that there is a balance of nature around us. My only concern is that if they have a better and more sustainable strategy to recover those ecosystems, then that's fine with me. But we know from the extraction of minerals, it's a sad story,
Very sad.
and that's why Bougainville, that very sad story, in Papua New Guinea, Bougainville, the natives, ended up with taking arms to save. They're not getting as much as was promised from the copper. I think it's either the largest or second largest copper mine in the world. And it's the same case too with in New Caledonia. Yeah. So those kind of problems, even in Fiji. But for us here in Samoa, I think we are very, very fortunate we don't have those resources. Otherwise, we will fall under the spell of what we call in economics resource curse.
Okay.
If we, suppose we had oil, popping up, here,
Yeah.
you know what? All those, descendants who have, linked to that piece of land will claim, welcome.
Of course.
And then it will end up with a lot of litigation and even taking arms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we call resource curse. It's happening even in Papua New Guinea and other, So to look at it from environmental economics viewpoint, there has to be a fine line, If they mine, then there has to be a good, sustainable recovery program to make sure that whatever area that is going to be mined will be replenished, Like, I think the mistake that happened at Asau, the reforestation program was done through exotic. This exotic means that these are species from overseas. They should have replanted native trees, the native trees, So that's a kind of thinking, but not only that too. Samoa, we are situated on a we are the smallest owner of what we call uh, the EEC, yeah? The exclusive economic zone.
Okay.
If you look at, us, Samoa, we have Savai'i, Paulu, and then we have, Tutuila and Manua, it's
Yep.
under the United States.
Yep.
And then on the other side of Savai'i, we have Wallis and Fortuna, that's French, it's French territory.
Yep.
And on the top of us, we have Tokelau, it's under New Zealand. And so if we go down, south, we have Tonga, Rarotonga, Cook Islands, under New Zealand. So we are squeezed in. And the rule is that the exclusive economic zone, that's the international. It's about 200 miles, from the shore. So going up to Tokelau, we don't have 200. We don't have 200.
Okay.
If we go to the French, we don't have 200. If we go to American Samoa, I think it's only about 80, 85.
Yep.
So we are the smallest now, but we, a lot of minerals, are in our exclusive economic zone. But the challenge that we face, I might, for me as an economist, if they don't come up with a sustainable, plan to, replenish the environment, they don't, because we are the smallest. It's okay. American Samoa has a very, very large. If you look at the map, because you have Swans Island, and then it's huge.
Yep.
But for us, it's very small. So is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth, giving up our, the fertile, the ecosystem, the marine ecosystem we have, in trying to get those? No, it's not worth it.
For sure.
If we had a much, much bigger, like the French on the other side, where Wallis and Fortuna, they have a huge, but for us. That's why, it's good that we talk about this. When I was in Parliament, this was 16 to 21, a new law was introduced by, the last Mamero Party, Tunsufunga, he was the deputy head of state. He was the Minister of Agriculture at the time. And he introduced a law to allow foreign fishing vessels, to come and fish within our 200 exclusive, EEC,
Yeah.
So there was a huge debate, because, within our, exclusive economic zone, we are very small.
Yeah.
We don't, have complete 200, square miles. And the argument, because for me, I wasn't really entertained, but then I discussed and I said, okay, what we were trying to earn from it, a revenue from that policy, was that, the Tongan Trench, below us, if you look at the map, then is where a lot of these earthquakes, So there is a trench that lies along that between us, and then as you go up to the north, the equator. It is it's a pathway for tuna to migrate,
Wow.
particularly when it's winter, when they will move up or north, depending on summer and winter. And most of these bluefins, what we call alpaca, this has the highest market, for sashimi, the bluefin, and then we have the yellowfin, and they come through because they migrate under, the deep ocean, and so they come through us, and the policy that we have, we don't allow. And then we said, well, economically speaking, tuna is a migratory bird, It's not like the fish, it's not like the fish that live um,
Yeah,
that
on
live
the
on the reefs,
yeah, yeah.
that they live there and they die there, so you just go and fish them. No, but for tuna, it's like a migratory bird, it goes with the change of the tide. So when it's summer, they move up to where it's cold, and then like so when they come through our waters, this very narrow sea that we have, and then the policy that we have, you're not supposed to. But the argument, what about if it goes past us? Because our law ends within our own EEC jurisdiction. But when it moves to American Samoa, even Tokelau,
Yeah,
which is foreign,
yeah.
the others will catch it. So we get nothing out of it. You're getting the
Wow.
point. You're getting the point.
Yeah, I get that
So,
is yeah.
so, so, environmentally speaking, we try to save the species, but say, no, we cannot do that because it moves. We're just part of the channel. And so we make sure that we get a portion of that. So we have and then that's why the law was passed to allow foreign vessels to come and fish, and even our the Wafule in Tautu,
Yeah.
you see a lot of fishing, foreign fishing
Boats there.
boats there.
Wow.
So that the wharf at Matautu is also used as a transshipment, where large containers come, and then they unload, they upload the cargo from all these um, fishing boats that we have allowed to catch, this tuna at this special time, and even so, and then it's still happening because we're getting a lot of revenue from it too.
Okay.
Um,
Revenue, which way are
from
we getting revenue, Professor? Like as in like from the companies, is there agreement with the government?
yeah,
Is that what we're getting money from?
yeah, they have to pay. There's a fee, because they also have storage facilities, at the wharf.
Oh, okay.
So, like any other rental property, you have to pay those fees and even, the boats, that use our port. So that was the whole idea. And because the other was saying, you kind of feel challenged, about, no, we have to protect. But then the question is, what about our neighbors, They don't have, they allow others. So we're just saying bye-bye and we're not getting
Yeah,
it.
that is.
So that kind of economic thinking,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's same with the rare earth, the extraction of this resource. If we had a much bigger exclusive
Yep.
economic zone, then I would say, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Because it only takes 1 year or 2 years to destroy, the beautiful ecosystem that we have. And that would also have a negative impact on our tourism industry too.
Yes, that's right.
Because once that ecosystem is destroyed, you'll find that, it will affect the reef, the growth of the reef and the rest.
And I've seen video of someone in Samoa. They were mentioning about the forests and how the eucalyptus is in there, and how since they started to cut down the trees, because eucalyptus is a very flammable. It's a
Yeah.
flammable leaf. So if there's bushfires, before when the rainforest was still intact, it's protected. The rainforest takes care of
Yeah.
itself. But now, because they do, cutting down of trees and stuff, it exposes it, and then the sun dries it out. And so then you mix oil with dry leaves and stuff, you got to get a bushfire. And then we're talking about places out there in Savai'i where there's no fire stations, and But I feel like this is a very economic education that we're getting right here. So thank you. We appreciate your insight, Professor. I want to. You go.
Yeah. Well, before we go on, one of the insights that our listeners and our viewers must understand is that for any development, there will always be a cost, whether it's financial or environmental cost,
Yeah.
or even social cost.
Yeah.
Now in this case here, now coming back to agricultural policies, because under Laudi's regime now,
Yep.
they are now pushing for the development of more agricultural lands and even virgin forests. They have to be very careful with that too.
Okay.
because one thing is to um, reap the rewards of the crops and even livestock, but then at the same time, it's getting much longer to recover those. It's when the taro leaf blight, that happened in the early 90s, 1991. The whole of the farming community, particularly the taro, farmers, you know, it's like you go to a funeral, because it's a livelihood. It's virtually gone, this fungus just destroyed everything, because we don't have the natural resistance to them, and I can still remember that. So we have to be very, very careful about what new uh, plants and even new agricultural methods that need to be brought in, because part of the reason why I'm raising this, part of this $1 million project is now looking towards mechanization. That's what they, like buying tractors and all other to uh, develop the lands. But then at the same time, uh, you are cutting down the rainforest. Because when you look into more and more lands, we have a very, very small size, and we have to be very selective in the way we look at what we call intensive farming, integrated, so that we make sure that we reserve, those areas, not just for catchment, but also for our role into, the carbon system, making sure that, yeah.
That's a very big issue you bring up there, Professor. It's very important for us to understand. So we thank you for that. Even with what you mentioned there with the tuna, if I was the Prime Minister, I will capitalize on that. I would capitalize on getting our own boats. I see some countries in Africa, some of these countries and some of these leaders, they love their country so much, they go and get quotes for how much to do the roads. And then they come back, it's too expensive. So he goes, okay, don't worry, I want to go buy the tractors, I want to buy all the equipment, and then we'll just get anyone that loves the country, I'll pay him some wages, and we'll just build the roads ourselves. And I think that's the leadership I think Laoli was trying to bring through. But, I can see that it's not coming to that, like it's almost like I don't want to put down the Prime Minister, but it's just, that's the energy he was coming with, and then a lot of the diaspora kind of have been, I thought like, wow, this is the change we need. Tuleapa needs to move to the side, but I'm like, okay, fair enough if it's change is good, but we have to give credit where it's due, and we have to kind of have some transparency, which brings me to my next topic, Professor. The topic of the whanawhawai, this big issue that is everyone's talking about. There was a HRPP, they had a meeting on Friday, and I tuned in a little bit on that, and it was good to listen to the people of the village that brought their opinions, and I sided with a lot of their opinions. But just your touch on this subject, Professor. Do you think about this? Is this a good system for us, or is there flaws in this system? What's your opinion on this, Professor, please?
The idea, the wisdom behind the phone farmer, the $1 million project, I cannot question that it's good, I also know Tulepa would agree with that too. But what we are now seeing, it's now being used as a political tool, that's not good, even if you have more seats, more, because 51, more than the number, there is still a lot of other constituencies, like you have 14, and then 3 under the SUP, and then so it's close to 20. That's a lot of, and the way the Whanawhawai has been set up, Um, you can understand, from government's viewpoint, what they are arguing is that they want those who support fast, to be
To be the
the
chairman.
chairmanship,
Yep. Yep.
you know, based on their argument is that they are the ones that will be able to enforce and lead developmental projects, that the government is laying out under this $1 million project, and that's fair enough. But the question is that when you use that as a scapegoat to make sure that you have a political control over all of other, non fast, then that's not good. Even if you look at New Zealand, Australia, even Fiji, even the United States, there are still blue states, United States, and red states, and even Australia, New Zealand, But when policies are made, they make sure that you become the prime minister, uh, of the whole country, and then making sure that there is a fairness in the distribution of resources, because I do believe that there will be a lot of issues as this project, goes along with the way the structure it is, it is being laid out. So with the hindsight and the foresight that the government, and I hope, now only because they made up their mind, and they have been saying that, all this about non-applicants and so on, you know, that's politics. They can talk about that politics all the day, but we need to make sure there is accountability and transparency, because this is not fast money. It's not their money. It's our money. You know, and that includes both HRBP and even SUP and independent, and the funds as well. So when you sit there, you make sure that they all get the fair. And if they genuinely believe that under the full leadership of FAST to control the disbursement of these funds will run smoothly, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Last uh, election, and under the leadership of your mayor, there were a lot of issues, about the disbursement of those funds, and some have been implicated on that. So whatever happened, it will also happen again, because you need to have a strong framework, that provides that. And I'm sure, that will also, because you cannot use that as a tool to entice people to switch allegiance, that's not right. That's not right, because that's my calling, that's your calling, and, if they choose to switch allegiance on their own volition, then that's fine, But when you try to use, all of these leverages to adhere to that, then, what goes around comes around. So,
That's true.
so there's, I did see uh, the gathering, the USB, HRBD, but just some glimpses. It seems that the support is very strong, amongst the base of the party to make sure that there is fair distribution. Now we're talking about wealth. This is wealth, and whoever sits at that point, there has to be fair distribution of wealth.
Yes. Yeah.
And the way it is done, it's not fair, There is no fair distribution of wealth in this. And one of the sad things is that using this project, because I saw the list of developmental entities that they listed for the project, and I said that's good, and I'm only hoping that that was not just a list, it has to be made law, so that will become an impediment to those who run funds to misuse it, because they will be made accountable for this.
Professor, can
And
you?
another thing too.
Yep. Sorry,
Yeah,
Professor. Can you just on that? You said there's a list. Can you dive
yeah.
in a little bit for? I'm not really fully aware what you're meaning by that. What list are you talking
Oh,
about?
yeah. I think it was part of the press release, from government.
Yep.
and they gave out it's quite a significant list of entitlements. And
Okay.
for example, um, you're not allowed to use funds to um, what are some of the
So it's
um,
almost like
I mean,
a criteria that they are
yes,
allowed. Yep.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
But then those criteria, they are quite broad.
Okay.
They just list
Yeah.
this. But then you have to look at the specifics of those,
Yep.
because it does undermine, what we want to achieve. And for me, the project is good. It's just that they need to do it on a more transparent level,
Yes. Yes.
and also make sure that everybody, including the opposition, because they were um, selected, elected by their constituencies. And if you want harmony, if you want to bring everybody, this is the best way to make sure, that both the opposition and will work together. But if you want to take a different
Yeah.
pathway, then it will only lead to more frustration and turmoil.
So
So
it seems like that system. So in other words, it is a good system. If it can work
yeah, yeah.
in ways, it's just the system of having this chairperson. You're saying that's a political move.
Yeah.
You think that's a strategy that's not looked on well from the Samoans, and I agree with that. I totally agree with that stance, Professor, because it doesn't make it fair that someone who has won their seat doesn't have any say to how this money is, pushed out into the district. And I think that's a very fair statement to say. As well as you just mentioned on the criteria. Yes, it needs to be made law if that's what they're saying. And if it's not made law, well then really the chairperson now, if you say, can just work within the grey areas, if you will say, the grey areas of saying, oh, well, we can put it under this criteria. But if it's law, it kind of gives the accountability. And I love the word you say, transparency. Hopefully the government can be listening and take something from this. But do you think if the government was
no,
to...
it's
Yep.
yeah. Just to extend on that, this is the second parliamentary term of the project.
Yep.
So it started under Fieme and Lauli, and then history happened.
Yep.
So now it improves from 1 million to 2 million. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money. My only fear is that, given the criteria that were stipulated, that I don't want to see this program becomes a welfare system. You know what I mean? I don't want that because, it can end up with something like that. With all the good intentions that Lauli is now putting forward, and I hope that he puts his foot down and makes sure that the fund goes direct into the developmental aspects of the economy, but not, siphoning, as a dependency, part of the equation, which is not good, when we look at the welfare system, once you get deeply involved with it, it's very difficult to
take back.
And then you are adding more dependence on, and then all of a sudden, with a small economy like us. Now, I think we've just, it's about 217,000. That's our current population at the moment. So it's improving, which is not bad, But we still have a very small, And hoping that we can reach, somewhere 500,000 is not a bad, Then we'll have the domestic market, and a lot of new technologies, and we cannot just depend on agriculture, because there are more jobs that can be created out of that sector when we look at the service sector, and others as well too. So, so that's where,
Professor. Because and I'm just going to finish on this part because we've been going for a while, but I just wanted to touch on it does seem like a political push with a few by-elections in the process happening now. So the Laoli has done it seems to be going out and pushing this project out and explaining to the people what this project is, and kind of getting support around this. Now, I couldn't help by watching some of that, and when I was watching it, he had mentioned some accusations, or he's made some statements that I don't know if it's true, but he did mention, because the Minister of Finance, Ana Rosa Mulipola, had mentioned that it will take 2 years for the plane to come in, and he had said that by the end of the year that it will be, we'll have a plane. Now, it sounds like a campaign that's happening at the moment, but the one question I want to put to you, Professor, because this is in your field, is he had mentioned that the GDP of Samoa, when they came in, it was something around $1 billion, 1 point something billion dollars.
Yeah.
And
Close-
then he
close
said
to
that
2
it's moved to 3 billion currently.
Yeah.
Is this true? He said to Google it. I Googled it myself. He told people to Google it if you don't believe me, and I did Google it. And I could see there was just a 1.3 billion in this currency, and this is in US dollars. But I didn't understand
Yeah.
where this $3 billion was coming from. Can you please clarify, Professor?
Yeah. What you saw with 1.3 billion, that's US. That's US currency. That's how we measure it. But in Samoan Tala, it's about 3 billion.
Okay.
Because the value, the market value of the US is somewhere like 2.4.5 Tala. So when we measure GDP per capita, or per person, per capita, that we use a conversion rate of the equivalent of the US dollar then. So yes, that was the GDP. But you brought a good question, and from as an economist, when you look at what the Prime Minister was saying, one thing is bragging about the achievement, and another thing is to people to understand what he's talking about. And he's right. He's right. But if you look at the previous, because when we do analysis, we look at the time series. Time series means that you look at the series of events that either happen within 12 months annually, or within annual, or many years.
Yep.
So that's why when you look at the graph, that was from IMF. So according to IMF, the graph, the steady growth, you look at it, there's a steady growth of GDP and to that person. And part of that steady growth rewarded us with graduating from our LDC, least developing status, to become a developing country. And that is based on GDP per capita. That's one thing that people need to know. Why are some countries still labeled as LDC, or sometimes the other texts use a third world, no? Third world, some of the terms. But you're looking at the the distribution of wealth through GDP per capita. So under Tulepa's regime, we were able to graduate from that. I think this is somewhere mid 2000, probably 2005 or 2006, and that is a huge achievement on its own. For all these years, he cared all of his economic policies to make sure that we move away from that. And even while we were still in FTC, we were a recipient of many foreign aids, because one thing under that category, you access a lot of foreign aids. But once you reach that level, and I think it's like our GDP per capita is now more than $3 US. But to move up from the LDC, we were on 1,000, below, and so moving up, we're now at 3,000 more than, I haven't checked the number yet,
Okay.
but that's how, so that's the GDP per capita. We are now about 3,000 US. Um, Converting that to Samoan Tala, it's now about, um, you divide 3 billion Samoan, 3 billion Samoan by the current population that we have, which is, the latest revision is 217,000. 217,000, I mean, just round it up. So you divide the 200,000, let's say 200,000, you divide 200,000 by 3 billion. Sorry, 3 billion divided by 200,000, just around here. I'm not counting the other 17, So you'll end up with roughly somewhere like 15,000 Samoan Tala, roughly, or maybe more.
13,000 it says here. I'm not sure if that
Yeah,
calculates.
okay. So, but if we put like 17, then it should come up somewhere like 13, 14,
Yep.
Anyway, but let's go with that, with 13, So that is the per capita. That is how much you and me, for every Samoan, from this population count, when we distribute the wealth, now we're coming back to fair distribution of income. It's important that even the baby, once a baby is born, that baby has a right, to the per capita. That baby has a right, automatically he or she has a right to 13 or maybe 15,000 Tala,
Yeah.
And how I mean, because when I try to explain that to my students, so how can a baby or and I said, look, the way we look at the figures, this is where policies come in, economic policies will come in, The government through the budget will have to make sure that they provide better schools, better schools, whatever, teachers and so on, better hospital, You look at the health care system and the rest, So when you accumulate all of those national account figures, then we have what we call gross domestic product, the GDP. This is the total wealth of all the goods and services produced in a country within 1 year. So it's very important that people understand this. So when we divide it by the population, then we have your share, my share, which is between 13 and 15, depending on whatever the number, and that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So if a parent complains that the baby dies, at the hospital, because of insufficiency of medical assistance or whatever, they have every right, because when we look at per capita, this is part of their 15,000 per capita. And that's why it's a burden on government to make sure that, public goods are being provided, the fair distribution of wealth is for everybody. But the way this management committee, the Fonfabai, that's not how I see it, because that distribution of wealth will not substantiate to the equivalent of what we call a GDP per capita. And I hope, our Prime Minister understands, these are basic economics, But for any leader, whether you're a Prime Minister, Deputy, or even ministers, or even CEO, you gotta understand these things. So, and that's why when media, anyone who wants to say something, they have every right to say, because their portion, this GDP per capita is very important. So when we calculate that GDP per capita using the year, 365, you take away all the holidays and so on, and then you divide it by the working hours, and then you'll end up with a minimum wage, at least somewhere now between 7 and 10 tala, the minimum wage, because currently the minimum wage is 3 tala, 4 tala. So I think they have now raised up to maybe $4, 80 cents. But you see my point when we look at that figure. So the current minimum wage does not fare well in terms of wealth, distribution of income, because it does not reflect on your portion of income from the national level, when we look at it. So therefore, the government needs to look at revising how much the market, and they need to give, because they control the minimum wage.
So, Professor, so just to kind of give it, because when I heard that, I just wanted to know, I wanted to see if that was true. Is maybe what you're saying, there is truth to it? Is that what you're saying, Professor, with this? Because he did mention that there was a big increase from when his time, one point something.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So there's truth
There's
to what
no
he
question
said?
about that.
Yep.
Yes. See, the 3 billion Samoan Tala, which is about 1.3, 1.4 US, you didn't just arrive there, by like, that Star Wars, pin me up, that Star Wars, you pin me up,
Yep.
that Voyager. You didn't just, reach that 3 billion. No, you're part of the accumulation that, that was done. And through that solid economic foundation that was done through Dr. Tudepa and his committee, and they should be acknowledged. And there's something, but once you try to play dirty politics, because you cannot stand on, like I always, quote what some famous, it was scientist, Newton, Isaac Newton. He said, he says that, to see afar, to look beyond where you're standing. You stood on other giants' shoulders. That means, the accumulation of all the hard work that went into the development of where you are at the moment has allowed you to
go further,
to look, at the horizon. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. Yeah. So to say that, the $1 million project has a direct, of course, but how to measure that? As an economist, we need to look at what we call significant growth and steady growth. If there is a steady growth, including the 3 billion, then it's part of the larger equation because of the solid economic foundation. But if there was a significant growth once it came to the last 4 years, like this, and then all of a sudden, then we can probably argue, oh, maybe this is one of, and that's not the case. You see
I get where you come from. There's so much to talk about in this subject, but I want to close off, and I want to allow you to give you the floor to, if you want to mention anything else, but I think I'll wrap it up from this, and I want to appreciate your time, Professor, for, greatly.
No, thanks, Mike. Thank you for the program. For me, it's a joy, because in the past we used to do it in Samoa, and we just didn't have the chance, to make sure that we explained, because a lot of the diaspora, even here in Samoa, and because, this is what I do, I teach final year BCom students, and then of course, graduate students about, the fundamental economic understanding, why nations fall and why nations, manage to move forward. Like, what I was trying to explain in the beginning, capitalism and communism, socialism, because they are economic ideas. Capitalism was developed by Karl Marx. They are social economists. So all of these, and then when we look at free market, which also developed by, these are all economic, and then bring in the social underpinnings. Then we have a harmony, in how we look at things. On that note, hope what God has bestowed upon us, this understanding will also enrich not just our children, but also those who would want to seek further knowledge. But
right.
it's all in the textbook and on the internet as well. So God bless.
Thank you so much.
God bless you, Mike.
Yeah. We're just going to go on a break now.
God sent his son. They called him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. He lived and died to buy my pardon and Because I know. Because I know. He holds the future. And life is worth the living just because he lives.
Thank you guys for joining, if you're still there. Credit to the Seventh-day Adventist Mount Jewett for that song. It's one of my favorite songs I like to listen to. It's the talent that our Samoan people have. It's amazing, and obviously the talent coming out of that church. It just goes to show our people have so much talent, and to see a video like that, you used to see this early on American channels, or these on TVs, and now we're starting to do it ourselves, and that's what I kind of like to promote and encourage our people to pursue their talent. It doesn't matter if you don't go on these big The Voice and American Idol or Australian Idol or these shows, but you still can get the talent to push your talent out, despite the whole camera lights, what everyone says is the cool way to do. And so I commend the Seventh-day Adventists for expressing and sharing their talent to the world. I just wanted to touch on I wanted to talk more about the Whanawhawai, the $1 million project, to give you a little breakdown of how I see it, and the good and the bad of this project. But I wanted to touch on some of the comments that I've been seeing on some of the shorts that I've been putting out. It's to some people it's triggering, because they have been told stories about certain people, and there's many comments, negative comments and positive comments, but I just wanted to address one of the comments that I replied to. Had said that you shouldn't, what about the disrespect that your dad and your mum and Tole Epa and Limongi, meaning Lealapule, disrespecting the Prime Minister? What about that? What about the disrespect there? And I replied back, and I said, yes, I don't condone disrespect, but when they mention, because my dad and my mum are Tolefo and Ainu'u, who are not allowed to speak on air at the moment, pursuing a case that's happening at the moment in courts in Samoa, but I corrected and I said they didn't disrespect the Prime Minister. Everything that they've said, it's all accordance to facts or along the lines. They will never say something out of line. They will never make up a allegation. And I think that's where people need to remember. There's a difference between the media that Tolefo and Ainu'u, when they were on air, yes, they had their opinions. They were fighting back. When people were commenting, saying, repeating what these fake pages are saying, I can handle it. To me, I just delete all the fake pages, But people who are negative, I can handle it. I got no issue. But my Tolefo and Ainu'u, they have their, and they're going through they react differently, is what my point is. And so their reactions to the people repeating fake news, fake stuff about them, that's what they're reacting to. They never ever came out and said something about Laoli to try and make some kind of story to mention about the Prime Minister, to defame him and put him down. Everything they mentioned was all on the lines. It's all according to the lines. So they will never step out of line and say, oh, make up some story because they'll know they'll get in trouble. That's what I just want people to know. But if you have that opinion, it's because you've been manipulated by a false story, a story that's not been verified. That's why I say be careful to the Samoans. And I know, I get it, you know, that our parents are new to technology, you know, and you know, they didn't grow up with technology, and now they found a phone and they're coming on Facebook and you know, press a few buttons, and you know, it's amazing, you know, to the technology that they're coming across. But just to kind of give you and educate you, you know, my Tolefo and Ainu, they were never, because I was the producer, that's why my show is the producer Mike show. It's because I never heard them, and I would always pull them up if there was something out of line. They never said anything that was false. And so coming back to that comment, I just want to say to the people, like, just understand the difference. You know, if you saw clips of them aggressively saying something back, or saying, you know, trying to vent their frustrations towards someone, it's because they're frustrated by someone saying something about them. And you know, sometimes I think if you were put into that position and someone was saying something that's not true about you, I don't know, but I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure you're not an angel to be like, oh no, you know, everything's okay. You'll get frustrated, right? Everyone gets frustrated. But I just want to make it clear that they are frustrated because of that. They're not frustrated, you know, like people are trying to say that all these news about them, you know. But you know, people react differently, and I know that you know they're learning to control their temper and control their emotions. Maybe they're not as good at controlling it, but we all got our own ways of expressing our you know, our emotions. We're all working through it. That's what we have to try and strive to encourage to be better. But just for people who don't fully understand, they're not there they didn't spread news that was false. They didn't say anything to disrespect the Prime Minister. They're scrutinizing and criticizing what Prime Minister has put out. They're saying what he's done, or what has, even when Fiame's time, what Fiame has done is wrong. What Lauli has done is wrong. Everything was all about what they thought was wrong. They never said Lauli is this, and they never said Fiame is this. They never said anything like that. So all these fake pages and these people that are trying to pull them down, just have a look at that. And then I think the easier way to kind of understand is put yourself in their position. Just put yourself in their position. If you think that there's something that's happening that is wrong, and then you see people starting to talk and bring up lies against you, how would you react? And then once you answer that question, right, then maybe consider next time when you're commenting about what I'm saying. You know, like I'm not offended by these comments. I just wanted to clarify and make it clear because, as I said, even when the negative hate's coming on now, I've got no issue with them because I can just see we just need to find a common ground, and a common ground that I'm starting to see, just analyzing what's happening in the commenters and the negative people that are saying you shouldn't be doing this, who are you, blah blah blah, you're this and you're that. Okay, I'm not angry at you. I just look at them and say, well, you know, these guys are. I'm pretty sure we can find common ground, and I'm trying my hardest to get to that common ground. And that common ground that I'm starting to see with these shorts that I'm putting out is this media. The medias that are out there, especially this big media company, the Blue TV. These guys are, they're a big company, and they have a lot of people watching them. Everyone knows about the Blue TV and the Asiaka and his show. And when I see that, again, just like what I said with the 7-Day Adventists and these guys, their talent, I love it. I love to see the Blue Wave TV come up because it shows that we Samoans can do media ourselves. You know, if what I can see that this is a Samoan-based media. It's not like a Palangi, we get Palangi and we work for the Palangi and we get told what to do. It's all Samoan for what I can see, and I love it. I absolutely support that. I love the vibes. I love the energy that comes out of it. You know, it's very attractive, and a lot of eyeballs are coming onto it, and you can see the success that's around it. No doubt about that. I've got nothing against that. What I do have against it is when people who come in and new to the technology, their minds are not really occupied too much into politics on the finer details. I don't like when lies are being pushed into stories. You know, when storytelling is confused with facts. That's what I'm not happy about. You know, so that's why I put down that short video. You know, are you a storyteller? Because, you know, when you say that Tulepa and Lealupule, like this lady had said, that was trying to, you know, what about them? What about Lealupule and Tulepa for what they're saying against Naoli? Don't they have any respect, right? Fair point. I think people need to remember Tulepa is the opposition leader. You know, his job isn't to sit there and just, you know, like say yes and whatever. His job is not to just sit there quietly and just take whatever's been said. His job as an opposition leader is to hold the government accountable for anything that is done right or wrong. They're the voice to say something and say, hey, I'm the opposition leader chosen by my district. I'm going to voice something up. And the issue that I'm trying to push out is if the government's trying to stop them from saying their voice, isn't that unfair? Like, put yourself in the perspective of a lot of us Samoans that go to church and you have meetings, right? And you put your money in and everything gets put into a meeting and you have a formal and then you put things into the meeting and then you ask questions to the president of the church. And if the president of the church says, don't answer, don't talk back to me, don't say, don't ask questions about this, I mean, how do we react? We got to obviously react and say, why do I not allowed to ask questions, right? So as a you know, but to bring it back to politics, that's what Tulepa's actual job is as the opposition leader, to ask the questions. Laoli, as you, the Prime Minister, what's with this project? It doesn't make sense. What's with this? It doesn't make sense. And I know a lot of the media are saying, Tulepa, retire, you should move on. HWP, move away. What are you guys doing, right? And people are repeating what these storytellers are saying, but not understanding that they are fulfilling their job as an opposition leader. Now, just imagine if Tulepa just quieted down. Just imagine if HWP was to go away and just stop and not question nothing, right? Do you know, just for like, if we did that for 2 months, do you know how scary that is? The reason why it's so scary, as I said, I'll bring you back to that example when you're talking about a church meeting. If you got red flags of that president saying, don't question me about the money, just let me do my job, right? Just, you know, if you don't question for 2 months and you come in, you're a little bit itchy, like, what's happening? Where's the money being spent? You know, this is what the scenario that we're being presented right now. I'm just trying to paint a perspective for Samoans to understand the similarity of what's happening in Samoa. This has got nothing to do with trying to like pull down Laoli. You know, Laoli is our Prime Minister. You know, and I as I said, Laoli is a charismatic, a businessman. Credit to him for even winning the election. Credit to him. He is the government now, right? And so this is nothing personal against Laoli because I like Laoli. You know, I really like Laoli's personality. I like it, as so many others. But when we're trying to scrutinize from a political side, we're just doing the job that you're supposed to do, to ask, hey, why is this not done properly? Why is this not done properly? That's all we're doing. And then we're getting criticized, or people are getting to say, oh, shut up, like, don't say that, what are you doing? Like, tell the Tulepa and move on, right? But then we just have an educated conversation with a professor, right? And he's mentioning the good deeds that many of Samoans probably are not aware of. And I'm aware of it. So that's why I'm trying to build that bridge so people can understand. So just to touch on more, people saying, well, what about the money about the rugby? Yes, those are the questions we want to ask. And I will get to that. I will get to these, what about the questions on these topics? These are topics that like need to be understood by economics. There's money coming in and there's money going out, right? So it's a big topic to kind of try, and even the conversation having with Professor Afualo, I'm just getting it. I'm just, at times not getting it, but I'm trying to shrink it down so then I can express it to you in a way that you diaspora and the Samoans and even Samoans to educate it in a way that you can get it, that you can grasp what's being said. But that's why I mentioned earlier in the conversation with Afualo, he said, I said, there was a video going around where Laoli is saying to the Tulepa, is saying something about, don't worry about talking about this, the deficit. Don't worry about that stuff. This is a new way of making money, right? Now, this is a video, I can show it to you guys, but don't worry about that. This is a new money way. This is a new way to make money. We're spending money to make more money. So I get Laoli's understanding. He's trying to make business deals to make more money for Samoa. But then Tulepa turned around and said, because Laoli was making remarks, you have no idea, you have no business, you have no experience in business, you don't know anything about business. That's what Laoli was saying. And then Tulepa had responded back in saying that I have the experience of running the country, running a government. And that's why it's important to know there's a difference, to run a business, to run a country are two different things. You've got to have a massive economics understanding. That's a big bonus as a leader of the country, to understand how this is done fairly, the different sectors, to control them all. It's a big ask as a leader of the country, and that's why I support Laoli to keep going for what he's doing, but I don't support the things that are screaming red flags. That's why I'm saying these things that got red flags, which is what I'm going to talk about now. But just on that side note about that comment, I respect that person. I don't want to mention names because it's not about trying to shame people and expose people. It's so sad how people think they can expose and use it as a weapon to kind of scare people to not say the truth. You can see what's happening, like even now, again, to the Blue TV. You guys are the professional standards. Just stick in professional things. I don't understand this argument that's happening between a case that's in Samoa, with this, the professor that had unfortunately passed away, and these new accusations, and which is not even supposed to be done like that. You got to understand. And Blue TV, for you even taking on the case, you should move away from it, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. But from a standard, like you can see the drama that I feel that it's not right practice that a professional media company is arguing with someone on Facebook about their comments on videos and trying to dissect what they are going through, what they are saying, trying to dissect it so that thousands of your listeners can listen to it. That's a weapon that you're using that's not fair. Maybe the lady just wanted her, maybe the lady that you're battling with wanted to be just discreet, and that was the message out there. But you brought it up, you wanted to dissect, you wanted to bring who she is. And then obviously all of the 5,000 or the thousands of people around the world that are Samoan are listening are just glued to this drama. Like who needs a reality show when you got Blue TV? Because they'll bring the drama to you. And it's fair enough, usually see the Balinese drama. It's made up or, the cameras, lights, action. But this is real life. And I know it's juicy because it's like, wow, what's happening? What are they saying? What are these saying? But you have a duty, Blue TV. You have a duty for the people to to tell them and caution them. This is just a story, you know? This is just a story. I don't have evidence, and I don't have evidence what I'm about to say about Tulepa, what I'm going to say against the HRPP members. I don't have evidence. It's just what I heard, right? Because you have to make it clear to them. And you have a responsibility to tell them it's just a story, guys. But, you know, I'm not saying to take it for real, because this is what media people do. This is what media people in front of the camera, they have a following, they have a responsibility and a duty of care to say that. Now, because you're not doing the duty of care of expressing that properly to the people, they come around and they say, MP Lealapule is the one who did it. Like, look at Sam. Like, for example, the hit and run case, allegedly. We have no idea what this, you know, unfortunately this boy, the university student that had passed away, we have no clear evidence that it was a hit and run. But everyone thinks it's a hit and run. Well, I'm not saying everyone, but people who don't know the difference think it's a hit and run. People who don't know the difference think it's Lealapule. That's why it's very, that's why you Blue TV, you have a duty of care. A duty of care for the people, to the content that you're sharing to the people. You have to distinguish the difference. It's a story. Because when you don't distinguish the difference, people will go out there and they will actually, they believe it, and then they start arguing with me and other people like Tulepa. They start arguing with Tulepa, they start arguing with anyone that's trying to talk anything about HRPP. And I'm like, why are we arguing? I mean, these guys, I think they're missing the point here. I think they're missing the point. So that's where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get angry at you who's trying to pull me down. I'm just going to try and make it clear for everyone and give more context, give more information. The more information you get about, oh, what happened to this money, what happened to that, the more information we get, then the people who are listening to these shows are like, okay, now I understand. And then there's no more friction, there's no more tension, there's no more rivalry between blue and red. It's just Samoa for Samoa. So that's my point that I wanted to say to the people that are commenting, you know, I'll try my best to respond and have a joke around, and because I got nothing against you, I don't blame you guys. You know, some people say these comments, and these comments like, you know, in Samoan, a lot of it speaking in Samoan, you know, and yeah, I try and wonder, like, where can I find common ground, you know, because you're my neighbor, you're Samoan, and I respect you. And then they come and call me names, but it's all right. Like, I'm just trying to find common ground and try and bring our people back together, because I just think it's just a misunderstanding. And that's why I'm starting to say the truth against this Blue Wave TV. You guys have a duty of care. I support your show. I support your business. I'm all for Samoan prosperity in every sector. I'm so proud to be Samoan. But, you know, so I'm using this platform here, whoever is listening, to kind of try and build a bridge for us to kind of come together, so we don't look at each other with misinformation and judge people with misinformation. It's trying to help calm the division that we have at the moment. Is what I'm trying to say. And, you know, I'm pretty sure it should be easy, because at the end of the day, we're all Christians, right? We all believe in God, and a lot of the values that we believe in, you know, Jesus wouldn't support a lot of the stuff that the Samoans are doing to each other. But in saying that, I just wanted to bring that out against the people of the comment that are commenting on my section. Bless you guys. And now I just wanted to cross over to I wanted to talk about the $1 million project that the government has put out. And I think people are not aware of this project. This project is $1 million. So when it came out in 2021, when FAST were in government, I think it was 21 or 22, but they pushed out this project. And there's a video out there that's saying that Laoli is saying that this $1 million is going to be spread to the district, and they can spend anything on this money. There's $1 million. It can just, whatever you guys want to do, whatever your district feels is best for you to do, you could spend this money. This is the money for you guys to build yourselves up. So that was the understanding, and that was the campaign that the fasts had pushed for the people to like vote for them, right? And so they got into power and they pushed this $1 million project out for every district. So there's 52 districts in Samoa, so 52 seats, and everyone who's won their seats is the MP. He's the leader of that district, if you want to say. They have a chairperson, which is what you would say is the name of this position. It's like the leader of the district. And so that usually goes to the MP automatically, this chairperson. And so when the money comes in, just say you're a HWP member that won, the money will come in, and so they distribute the money wherever way they feel like it's fit to do for their district. That's how the project is supposed to run. Now, it's a good incentive. That's a good thing for what FAST has put out, because a lot of these people need help and assistance, and a lot of the, helping them up, because Samoa, there's not really much jobs out there in Samoa, which is why people come outside of Samoa. But so this is how the project was pushed out. Every chairperson who was the MP, so every MP was a chairperson for their district, took care of the funds, and they distributed the funds accordingly for what was best for the district. Now, there's some red flags, and this is why I'm saying this video is about bringing up the red flags so people can see it. The red flags that were coming up were there were money issues around some of these districts. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to talk on these money issues that between districts, because I don't know the full details. I can get those details, but I don't know those details at this moment. So I'll talk about the one that everyone's talking about, which is the one that's been verified by articles about this MP who had used funds and money was missing to this MP from FAST. There was money missing, and he was taken to court, and he was found for corrupt practices, right? So he was found for misusing this money, corrupt practices for misusing this money. So that was dealt with. These are the issues from this project. So the project is a great initiative. It's a great project to help the people from the districts. But then you got this red flags of money issues and money misuse, power misuse of the money starting to show. These are the red flags that are coming into it. Now we fast forward to the second term when FAST had come in, where FAST 2 had come in. Now this new system, the chairperson, the district chairperson changes. This is like an update to the project. So they made changes to this $1 million project, which is now going to be $2 million a year for each district. So the update is now the MP, who is the MP of the district that they won, now the updated changes that the government is trying to do is that chairperson that is usually the MP that has won their seats, now the FAST want to make that chairperson position separate from the person who won the MP seat, right? So then that means the question is, how does so who's the chairperson if it's going to be separated? Well, FAST government, this is a new part of the new update. So the FAST government have made a panel, they've chosen a panel of 3 people to question the MPs if they want to take the position of this chairperson. So if you want to become a chairperson of this district, you have to apply for this. And so if you won your constituency district seat and you want to be the chairperson that takes care of the money when the money comes into the account for the district, well, if you won your seat and you're not the chairperson, well then that means that you don't have the power over the funds. So the 2 million that's coming into the district, you as a winning MP don't have the power to control it. And this is where the issues of this new changes is coming. I'm not sure if a lot of the people understand that, but that's what's happening. So you can see right there, you can ask the question to yourself, so what was the point of winning the election? You know what I mean? You need to really win the chairperson spot. As long as you can win the chairperson spot, then you really are the one in power distributing this $2 million that everyone's going to get every year to these districts. Begs the question is what I'm saying, like what's the point of winning my seat, right? So that's a major red flag right there, these new changes. So the chairperson is selected by the panel, and the panel determines who is fit for chairperson, who is fit to be the chairperson for that district. Now the numbers that I've got been given, it may be wrong, but they have a system where all of the fast MPs they are given the chairperson. So the MPs, if you're a fast member and won the chairman, if you won your seat as a fast member, then you are also a chairperson for your seat. So you control your own money for your seat. But if you're a HRPP or independent or sub candidate, well then you have to get, there's some inconsistencies there. So the HRPP members, I think there is 4. It could have changed here, but there's 4 of the HRPP members that have been given the right to control their district funds, the chairperson. They're given a title of chairperson. But then 11 of them have been given, so 4 of them from the HRPP have been given rights to control their own funds. And another 4 from HRPP are not the chairperson for their district. So 4 of them are not the chairperson for their district. And 11, they have this other system they're implementing, which is what FIMA is talking against. They call it the chairperson co-chair, where there is an A side and a B side. So FIMA and a lot of 11 other people or 10 other people are chairpersons, but they are chairperson B. And then there is a fast supporter, chairperson A. And chairperson A has more power to control the overall where the funds of that district goes. Does that make sense? So that's the scenario at the moment. I might have it wrong, but 4 of the HRPP members, so they have no say at all. It's a chairperson has been selected to kind of to take responsibility of all the funds, even though you can be a winning member, MP that has won the constituent district, the district's vote, but you got a fast member, a fast candidate, or a fast supporter that is controlling the funds. And this is where people are uprising and saying, hey, how does that make sense, right? That's a red flag, isn't it? There's a massive red flag. I mean, there's just common sense, what I'm saying. Now, one of the cases that are about this is, remember I told you about that guy that was found guilty of corrupt practices, right? So one of the 4 that have no say in their constituency, one of these 4 have been one of the 4, that MP that was found guilty of corrupt practices, he lost his seat in this new election. He lost his seat. Now, a HRPP member had won that seat. And so the chairperson for that HRPP member who won the seat is the person that was found guilty of corrupt practices. That's the red flag I'm trying to point out here. So the person who was found guilty of the misuse of funds, the MP, that when he was MP in the first term of Fast 1, in the Fast 2, he lost. And then the HRPP member jumped in, and now when this chairperson saga is taking place, he is now the chairperson of the funds, in the second term coming around. He is now chosen as the chairperson of that district, even though he didn't win the seat. And that's my point I'm trying to say, guys. There's a big uproar of the village. They didn't, this guy was found guilty of this. And so then the villagers got on buses and they came to visit the Prime Minister. And then the Prime Minister, look, I'm not saying I know, I'm giving you the details, but I'm giving you a quick version of what happened. The Prime Minister, in other words, calmed the scenario down and moved them along and had vocalized his support for this chairperson, even though he was found guilty of corrupt practices. Now, if that's not a red flag, guys, I'm not sure what is, because that's a massive red flag, So that's the second red flag that I wanted to bring up. And the third one is this audit process that I wanted to bring the attention for everyone to understand. So when I've been trying to understand, why isn't this brought up in Parliament? Why isn't the people talking about this in Parliament? Why aren't the MPs talking about this stuff in Parliament? And it's come to my attention that the audit is being done, so you bring the paper in, so you bring the papers of where the money has gone. So if this project, the numbers behind this project and where the money goes and which district it goes to, how much money goes there, how much money goes here, that sheet or that audit has been, what the process usually happens is an audit comes from this $1 million project, comes through the government or the government party who's responsible for this audit, brings it forward to the Parliament and puts it on the table so then everyone can scrutinize the numbers. Hey, is this good or this bad? This is what usually happens, right? This is what democracy is. Just like you'll see in church. Hey, this is where the funds, this is where the money went. This is what we did on this project. You bring it onto the table, you dissect it, and some people say, why did the money go there? Didn't we not agree on this? Blah, blah, blah. That's what happens. That's what takes place. But so then the process of this $1 million project, since it's come out, usually they have an audit every 1 or 2 years. They kind of give the transparency, make sure people are aware this is where the money's going, right? Now, my third red flag is what's been happening is the audit has been done, and Honourable Tulepa has said this. The audit has been done. Some type of audit has been done for this project, but it's been. What usually happens is puts it on the table. Once it's put on the table, everyone talks about it, and then it passes on, and then the process of democracy is then done. I don't think people are aware of this, but they don't go through that last process. The audit doesn't reach the Parliament. The audit doesn't get tabled. That's what Tulepa had said. It did not reach the table because they refused to bring it to the table to be scrutinized. Can you imagine that in church? I'm just put everyone into perspective. Can you imagine if the people who were taking care of the money of the church was to refusing to bring the money on the table, the audit or the finances of the paperwork of where money has gone, what this has been done on this? Can you imagine that being done in church? This is why there's a lot of arguments and fights when you see these brawls happening in church. It's because of things like this. And also people talking lies against each other. But I'm just saying from a perspective, in church, you would not accept that. You would say, no, we want to see where the money is gone because we put our money in this. So this is government. Now we're moving to government. In government, they are refusing to showcase the audit. So people like the MPs can ask, hey, where's the money going? Why is this money? They refuse to put it on the table. That's my third red flag for this project, right? I like the project. I think I love Samoa and trying to help Samoa and the districts. I like the idea, but I think these red flags that people are not aware of, they have every right to question it, which is why HRPP had a meeting yesterday. to talk about it. And then if you see the HRPP website and you see the people talking from the districts, they're venting their frustrations about this is not fair. You know, we voted for our MP and now our MP gets pushed on the side, you know. These are what these guys are saying. Where's their right as a voter? Where's our, you know, right? And a lot of them are frustrated. You know, a lot of them want to go rally, you know, and you know, do extra. But you know what? The Honourable Tulepa is calming the ship. This is what I'm trying to say. Despite all this wrongdoing, you know, people feeling misunderstood, despite that, Tulepa still comes and calms down the ship and says, we just take it to the courts and we do it in a peaceful way for the sake of all Samoans. Right? This is how I have respect for Tulepa, that he has the calmness to calm the ship and calm the people down and say, we'll do it the right way because we don't want to have any dramas that will go, you know, that will break families even more. And that's why I respect. But rounding off what I'm saying, guys, this is my take on the project, the $1 million project, and I just want to, just mention that for everyone to understand that. There you go. So, I know we had a lot of people that maybe are not aware of this project, this $1 million project, but these are the red flags that I'm trying to push out for us people outside of Samoa to understand more of. If we don't understand what's happening in the transparency is the word I'm trying to make everyone understand. The transparency is like making it clear that the numbers and everything is done right. That's all we're trying to say. So when Tulepa and Lealapule and all these MPs from HRPP, Lawofo, when these guys are on platforms and they're talking about it and they're trying to say stuff about like, hey, you know, this and that about certain things, about certain topics, about what's happening as a MP for their constituency, and then we got people that are they commenting, oh whatever, you guys don't know nothing, and swearing, and guys, we're Samoans, and I know us Samoans are very respectful. It's in our nature to be respectful. It's a shame that we come to this level of talking to each other and commenting like that. It's a shame, but I believe that comes back to the storytelling that I'm saying, especially to Blue TV. You have a duty of care to the people. You know, I, as I said, I support Blue TV and I support Samoan prosperity. I love it. I love to see it blossom, and I wish them more success. But you know, what you said, you know, to a lot of these people, and you know, change your stance, change the content that you're pushing out. You know, it's not right, is what my point is. But I just wanted to finish on that. And tomorrow we have another show with the Honourable Tulepa, the opposition leader. And I want to ask the same questions to Tulepa, you know, as the opposition leader, so we can get more transparency, more knowledge, insight of what's happening in Samoa. But I am going to bring out new other stories just to kind of keep the update of the diaspora, the people outside of Samoa, on what's happening, rather than just relying on these sources like Blue TV and other media who are, yes, biased towards the government. I will try, and I am going to be bringing up new stories to talk about these issues, so we can kind of get a better understanding of what we're talking about, rather than just being online, swearing at each other, arguing, putting blue and red hearts. You know, we need to try and be better and come back to share to each other, have respect to each other. You know, don't take so serious the stuff that I say. If it's too much, then maybe, you know, turn it off and come back another time. But, you know, we should always come back to being respectful to each other and respect each other's opinions. Even if we don't agree, you might not agree with me now. That's okay. And I don't agree with a lot of stuff, and I voice it up. But everyone has that right. But to come and swear and say this and say that, you know, we got to try and help you through your hurts to be matured enough to be grown up to say, that's not the right thing to say. And especially these people, you're the example of what you say. Your kids, a lot of these people have kids, and a lot of the people doing these actions, you're showing your kids to do that. Then that kid will go and do it to another kid, and then it puts us Samoans in a bad light. Then you wonder why some Samoans and some islander countries, they're caught up with these people that are connected to these gruesome crimes like murder and all this stuff. Why? Because the pattern starts from somewhere. And anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it as that, and tune in tomorrow for our interview with Tulepa. Hoping that he still wants to talk with me, but tune in tomorrow, guys, for another episode. Thank you so much for joining in, and have a good day.
Remember also, mafutanga pafana uatasi ai pangalea elefia manatua lua lima te semanua